Welcome. You're here for this show. Left versus right. Can America last any longer? We're going to talk with conservatives and liberals. I'll play the part of a lefty liberal today. My longtime colleague, Alu Axelman. It's Elliot Axelman. He goes by Alu. I met him. Actually, I met your dad through you. Your dad is a great man. Love your dad. He's an official Jewish rabbi. Alu has been studying conservative politics for a while. Originally, he had moved to New Hampshire, helped out with the movement there. He's moved to Virginia. He's been studying the conservative side for a while. We originally wrote a book together many years ago. There it is right there, The Progressive Solution, where we agreed that America would be better if conservatives followed their will and let California leave, and that it would be good for liberals and conservatives. On the other side is the pocket guide to killing gun legislation with the beautiful Miss, I'll only say this one time, the very beautiful Miss Axelman. Glad that she's part of the show too. And best wishes to, she's having another bun in the oven. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep. Doing February.
Congratulations, man.
Congratulations.
Soon you'll have enough children to make your own militia. So keep at it. And she may not know that's the goal, but hey, you know. Anyways,
yeah, that's the secret plan.
Alu, introduce yourself and let them know your conservative credentials here before we start to debate on if America can survive any longer. And by the way, for everybody watching, this is really just going to be a review of the news in the last 10 days and how dramatically things have changed. So, Alu, who are you? Why do you believe in conservative, whatever you want to call it, politics? You're not a super lefty Californian. So how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I'm the polar opposite of you crazy lefties. I mean, thank you for having me on the show, but you guys are so crazy, Marcus, and just so different that we should get a divorce so that we can not devolve into the inevitable violence that it seems like the two sides are going towards. So I'm Alu Axelman. I've been in pro-liberty conservative politics, identifying more as a libertarian the last few years, last decade. And since like 2017, I've been active at a radio show, talk radio, podcast, videos. We're still doing a weekly podcast every single week, except for one, I believe, for the last like 275 episodes now. So it's like 5 years and something. And we have a website called libertyblock.com that I created along with Mark Stewart Greenstein when we were co-hosts on the radio in 2017. And that writing, the articles and podcasts have developed into the books that we see here. I have a few more in the background. Oh, I can move this progressive crap now. So some of the books in the background. And I ran for office. That's a story for another time. But as a hardcore pro-liberty anarchist conservative and won the primary and narrowly lost the general. That was for state rep in New Hampshire. And anyway, over the last 10 years in politics, following it closely, writing about it, commenting on it in podcasts, videos, writing articles, books, I've realized that we're all saying a lot of things. I mean, there's on the left, there's CNN, and there's Marcus, and there's the Democrat Party and media. On the right, there's Mark Levin. Shut up, you idiot. I love Abraham Lincoln, and he kept the Union together at all costs. Even if it's okay if he kills everyone, as long as the Union's still at least together. So, but on both sides, there are people saying the same things, red meat for the base, if you will, saying, you know, how we have to crush our opponents and rule over them. But I'll move the tissue box now. It served its purpose. But everyone's saying the same things and not doing anything, and both sides want to crush the other and dominate and win and force their values on the other. And that's what it's about. The right is saying free market economics, low taxes stimulates the economy. The left is saying we should maybe tax higher and have stricter regulations on business. And that way we can use the tax money and provide for people via what I would call socialism, redistribution of wealth kind of stuff and welfare. And we're never going to agree. And what I realized, because I'm very much like a solutions-based person, my whole career in medicine, emergency medicine, I'm about fixing people, identify the problem and fix them. I realized we can all fight forever, and I can beat up Marcus and we can fight nonstop forever, or we can agree to disagree. So I compare it to a couple that's fighting and more violent every day, and they keep fighting more violently and pulling out knives and guns, and they can keep fighting until one or both die. You know, that's cool, I guess. or they can be kind of mature at least and agree to disagree, separate somewhat amicably or peaceably without shooting each other and getting, killing their neighbors with collateral damage, in just a peaceful separation. So if you look at any couple, just two people or a larger group of people, or let's imagine there was one country with increasingly one set of laws for the whole country of 350 million very distinct individuals living in 50 distinct states with different cultures. If they're going to kill each other and they cannot get along under one set of rules, wouldn't it be better eventually if after 250 years they only become more and more fighting each other, more aggressive and hateful toward each other, to just peacefully separate? And Marcus and I have been working on this for years because we realized, from California, Cal-Exit, from the left, their left wing, even more so than the rest of the union. Texas is more conservative. New Hampshire is more libertarian. All three of them don't share values with the other states in the union because every state is distinct. We realized we should support peaceful separation. And that's what I love about the relationship with Marcus and me is we're so divided that we're united. We're divided through unity, or we're united through division, which is just so beautiful because we agree that what's best for everyone in every way is to separate peacefully. I'm not afraid Marcus and I are actually going to kill each other.
No, but yeah.
But like the right and left increasingly, and then we've been doing this for years, and then we see Charlie Kirk and the others, like literally where the left is killing them, and it's going to get, the left is killing the right, and there's so much of this. By the way, Marcus, I don't know if you know, X is popping off the last few days about my state of Virginia. Your boy Jay Jones is saying he wants to shoot the Speaker of the House in the head and murder him. So again,
real quick, just for everybody there, violence is bad. Violence is wrong. Elliot and I both, or he would not have been allowed on this platform, do not support violence. However, what we're trying to do is provide a temperature check on the country at a moment, and it's pretty bad. So just wanted to put that caveat out there. Please continue.
Yeah. I think I was pretty much done. I mean, we agreed even before Kirk and a lot of the other stuff, before the temperatures gotten hotter and hotter. We thought years ago, we were saying in 2022, 2023, we were saying it's bad with Trump and Biden, even before with Obama. I mean, the union's been divided for a long time. I could say since 1850s. I could say since, if you go back to the founding, you've read Charles Kreitner's book, right? What was it called?
Richard Kreitner.
Yeah. Kreitner, Break It Up. I didn't realize that till I listened to his book on Audible. Ever since 1770, before even we had a union, 1770, there were legitimate threats of this union. They were threatening to kill each other and or secede and separate. So the union, the colonies, the Confederation, even that was tenuous and maybe almost didn't happen. And there were threats every other day, legitimate, real close threats to secession and dissolving union. And then every few years from 1770 through now, he explains in his book with good academic scholarly sources how there was a lot of threats from secession from the North, the South, from everyone. So it's not like we were one big happy family forever. And now crazy Marcus and Alu come around and say we should not be united in the union anymore. It's been Richard Kreitner's center left or average left.
He's left.
He just straight up documents the history of this. And there's been a lot of strong secession movements for a long time, for 250 years. Why didn't my teachers tell me about all this?
I think because one nation under God, right? We were forced to do so. We're indoctrinated in this idea that America could never end. It'll go on, and it could never stop. And there was a interview by New York Times where experts in fascism were leaving the U.S. And what they mentioned was that, and that came out May 18th, my colleagues and friends, they were walking around and saying, we have checks and balances, so let's inhale. Checks and balances, exhale. And I thought, my God, we're like the people on the Titanic saying our ship can't sink.
I love it. I love this.
So and this is why I wanted to have Elliot on. I'm a lefty. I'm a liberal. I know this is more of that side, but I wanted people to know that there are liberals and there are conservatives who don't live near each other, don't share values, but share a concern about things getting worse and want to do something to prevent that. And I've known Elliot for years. And so I wanted to do a review episode with him because he definitively can back me up on things are worse than they've ever been. Is that fair? I mean, this country's more divided. You and I have been in this space for a couple years, at least 4 or 5 years together. I've been doing it for longer. You've been doing it for longer, but we've known each other 4 or 5 years. Would you say that definitively, in my opinion, in the last 10 years, in the last 10 days, things have jumped metrically from where they were the last couple of years? Is that?
Yeah, of course. It keeps getting worse, and that's how things tend to go, like the physics law of entropy. But also, like with violence, it generally escalates until something happens that acts upon that force that changes direction. In general, again, look at a couple fighting. If a couple is beating each other and fighting and screaming, very often it'll escalate from screaming to hitting to more violence, and then someone leaves or someone dies. Same with military conflict. Unless some other outside force acts upon it, or somebody concedes or leaves or something, somebody clearly wins or loses the war, it keeps going and it gets more violent and escalates. So yeah, of course things have escalated in the last few years and months and weeks, and it's getting really, really bad. And you could just go online on social media and you'll see a lot on the right are getting sick of it and saying, Charlie was the one who was peaceful. You crazy leftists killed him, and now there's no more peaceful conversation left because you literally killed that guy. So let's go to war. And that's really, really bad. And for those who are like above 30 and or have children, which I am, like war is not that good. It's like really, really, really bad. Even in like my toughest mind state of like, oh yeah, I'll crush the lefties. There's like so nothing good about it, because even if I can fantasize about like slinging my AR and stuff and defending my streets, I can't do that while holding my baby. Like I have a wife and a son, and like that's so. I think people who are more mature and or have kids, like they realize actual violence has to be avoided at all costs. It is like so the absolute last resort. Like nobody wants it. I mean, I think there are fringes on the sides, and yeah, it's becoming more and more popular of wanting some kind of bloodlust on both sides, but it has to be stopped. Like there has to be cold water poured on this heat like yesterday.
Yeah, and I'll agree mostly. So Charlie Kirk was killed, and that is bad. Charlie Kirk's death has galvanized Republican voters who blame the left for political violence. Is the American left really more supportive of political violence, etc.? And what happened was that a lot of liberals did celebrate Charlie Kirk's death. Not all, but many did. And then that seemed to infuriate the people on the right, who thought how and bad that is that this guy is killed, and we have to talk bad about it. But in liberals' defense, they kind of felt, well, the guy said some things that to us sound racist, sexist, and homophobic, and all we're really doing is replaying quotes from him. And now we're criticizing. Yeah. And for the liberal side, they view it as, hold on, I'm ordered to shut up and bow down and pray to a guy who I hate and think is a white supremacist. But on the right side, they view it as, you guys are making fun of this guy who died. So I'm not, either way, there's two sides, and they're just not coming together. And that's the point of today's show, was I wanted it to run by Alu, who's on the other side of this than me, that this discussion is everywhere. I saw this recently. That's 6 different podcasts, all about the last couple of days, late September, early October, all talking about America's extremely divided and it's getting worse. Divided states of America. We're heading to a civil war. America's too divided. Christian nationalism will end the U.S. Charlie Kirk may start a second civil war. They're not alone. Here's another article. Right before everything collapses, again, around August 25th, like I was saying, the last 10 days-ish. Here's another one I found interesting. It was an interview with Megyn Kelly, and then on the from Fox News. And then on the other side, here's an interview with Dr. Carr. He teaches at Howard. Both of them were saying, I'm not sure the country can survive. So Megyn Kelly's on Fox saying, we can't work with the left because they're crazy. So it's not going to work. And then Dr. Carr and his colleague were saying, should America survive? Here we go. Here's another one. MSNBC, how can Americans grow the divide? And here's this commentator on the left saying, do we have dark days, or are we getting out this? And right now it's pretty dark, and the whole Charlie Kirk thing is hold up a mirror to the nation. Another woman said we're more divided than ever. That's not alone. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene calling for
she's called for national divorce or mentioned it many times.
Yeah.
Last year.
And then, so I want you to think about this. And people are having these conversations. I don't know these people. And here they're talking about it's being divided. And this is just in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk killing and the liberal reaction to it and the conservative reaction to that. And then I got this from Elliot. These are people online who are conservatives and have said, we cannot live together in a country anymore. The biggest one is Matt Walsh, who made a post with over 6 million views of it. I cannot unite with the left because they want me dead. Massive chunk of America's happy about Charlie Kirk being assassinated. Where does hell does the U.S. go from here? We cannot and will not coexist with demons like this. We cannot coexist. We cannot coexist. I can't coexist with these people. We're not going to coexist peacefully. You get the idea. So a lot of people with 100,000, et cetera, views. What do you think of that?
Well, I wrote this book like 2021 or 2022 saying the blueprint for liberty is going to have to be secession, the American flag being burned there, which, Trump wants to like criminalize, and he doubled down saying like he's actually going to have guys arrested for burning the flag. So he can go ahead and come at me and see what happens. So that's fine, because I'm going to go burn a flag on video soon. So anyway, can I just explain to all of the listeners and viewers why we can't coexist? And like, maybe not everyone thinks about this, it's obvious, but people say, why can't the right and left get along? Because it's like we have a preference for red and you Democrats have a preference for blue. And if you have a blue flag and I have a red flag, why can't we get along? We don't hurt each other. And libertarians always say the non-aggression principle is like our ethos that controls everything. It's our basis of our whole belief system. And it just says, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. And outside of that, everyone can do what they want, whether you like it or not. But here's the issue. The right and the left, they fundamentally disagree about what human rights are. For instance, a lot of conservatives, even myself included, admittedly, would say if you kill babies before they are born, whether, especially after a heartbeat, so after 6 weeks of gestation, all the way through 9 months, if you take their life, you abort them, it's murder. You stand about to murder. It's essentially the same, indistinguishable from murdering a baby who's like a 1-month-old baby crying. And people on the left say, and you might not understand this, and we might fight. And if you fight me and say I'm horrible, that's the whole point. You're making my point that we can't coexist. So, and I'm sure you're going to disagree with this. So I would say I don't want to share a society with people who kill babies and support it. And that's the issue. We can't live and let live. Democrats and libertarians, half of them are pro-choice. They say, why can't you live and let live? It's not your body. It's her body, her choice. And again, we have such fundamental disagreements about all of the most basic things, like what is a human and what is murder. And if you think something is Democrats, 99.99%, I believe, maybe 100% of those on the left, and like most of California believes abortion is there's nothing wrong with it. It's not violence. It's a woman just exercising her right, just like she has a right to wear a blue shirt or support Democrats. She has a right to abort her fetus. But in the conservative world or my libertarian world, that's murder. And that person would go to prison forever. So again, we can't agree on these things. So if we can't disagree, and I don't have the manpower to imprison every woman who has abortions, and right now it's not feasible.
And that would never fly in California. Right. Yeah.
What's that?
And that would never fly in California. Yeah. So like
no, definitely not. Exactly.
Yeah.
So at least let's separate so I don't have to share a country, which is me. If I share a country with these people, it's like I'm implicitly endorsing them like killing babies, which I'd rather not do. If they're in a different country, at least I can separate it from my mind somewhat. And then I can justify it to me and my colleagues, other conservatives, saying, I know you hate abortion, you consider it murder, especially the religious conservatives, but we're not going to invade another country of California to imprison women for aborting babies, right? That's one more step that would make them hopefully have some reluctance and just a second thought about, do we really want to prosecute that if they're in a different country? Whereas if they're in another state, we can say 14th Amendment, we have a right to life, equal protection, all that stuff, and let's go into California and imprison all the women. So I think and that's just one example. We have so many disagreements. The transgender stuff I could go on and on about for the next 10 hours about transgenders.
Yeah.
I think, and most conservatives, even more hardcore than me, they believe if you are giving hormones and or surgery for transitioning minors, that's like severe child abuse, meaning you have to go to prison for life. So again, in California, they have just a disagreement on the fundamentals of that whole situation. They say it's medical care, it's affirming, it's doing the right thing, it's mental health care, psychology, and medical care, and it's appropriate. It's about freedom. So we cannot coexist where your neighbor, again, we don't want to be neighbors. If your neighbor is mutilating kids, severe child abuse, murdering babies.
Okay. All right. I just, because I have a liberal audience.
Okay.
Just for the liberal audience, we don't view that this way. I'm not trying to argue with them.
No, you disagree with me, and that's my point. We disagree. We have to agree to disagree. And
I don't want to do the standard disagreements. What I want to show is that we don't get along and that both of us are at least rational enough to recognize that the level of disagreement right now is only going to get worse, and we should do an amicable divorce because, frankly, I'm the only liberal that I know that talks to conservatives at all. And most liberals that I know would have, and I'm not criticizing you. I don't agree with what you're saying, but I'm not criticizing you. A lot of liberals wouldn't have lasted 30 seconds with you. They would have just left. And so
that's what I can't understand. But why? So I know, and I agree. The other leftists that you talk to in your circles in California, you said they couldn't even listen to someone like me for even a few seconds, which I agree with. They would tell me to shut up.
It would have been a shouting match.
Yeah, but here's what I really don't understand. Why do they not realize we need to separate? Do they think they're going to dominate me and crush me and win? Yeah, that's what's sad. They really think they're going to crush. Again, either they can successfully crush all of Texas and Florida, and it's a lot of people, or they're going to lose. And even if they crush them, they want to subjugate them and make them slaves.
They wouldn't call it slavery. They would say that there are laws
force them to live your way. Yeah.
Better for people in your thing, and you don't know that, and we'll force it on you. Whenever you see liberals talk about how Trump didn't win the majority vote, or he didn't really win the majority vote, or a lot of people got duped and they wouldn't vote for him, that's liberals saying the majority of the country belongs to us, and one more election will win, and then force our policies on you. There's very little liberal acceptance of, I would say almost none, that the policies that they push on the conservatives is what causes the division. They don't get that. They just think, you're wrong. Some liberals are starting to get that it's dangerous for us and we should get out. But I don't think there's any liberal that gets, hey, your insistence on pushing your worldview on 150 million people who fundamentally don't view that way, and you just saying, well, you don't got it right and you don't know what you're doing and I know better than you, is a recipe for war. They don't get that.
It's a mechanic level of denial.
Yeah, at most we have some liberals recognizing, what we've done to conservatives they could do to us. I want to get out before that happens. But there's not really a recognition of, we're aggravating this. For example, when they were talking about, and I call Trump a Nazi, but at least I have some idea that might aggravate the language. If you talk to liberals, they have no idea of that. They're like, well, but he is a Nazi, so it's totally fine for us to call that, and it doesn't cause anything. No, I don't think liberals are to blame for the shooting, but I at least am aware of how the language can hurt, and I just don't find that on their side. So
that's a great point. So again, and I heard this years ago, and I even thought it was pretty important back then, but now it's really, really serious. The dehumanization that the Nazis did to the Jews in 1930s to set up the murder of millions of them in the 1940s by saying Jews are disgusting, filth, rats, they're not human, they're subhuman. And it's been done to, probably everyone, black, white, this, that, old, young, men, women, a lot have been considered not human, and it's dangerous because that allows for people to believe it's like killing a non-human, like killing an ant. And I don't blink twice when I kill an ant. So that's dangerous. And again, I'm the biggest free speech absolutist in the world. I'm finishing up a book and publishing it in a few weeks, all about free speech absolutism. That being said, I'm almost starting to entertain the ideas that's problematic when people have been saying for years on big platforms, Charlie Kirk is a fascist, horrible bigot, Nazi, because to some extent, whether it's 1% or 80%, that is contributing to those believing killing him. He's not killing a human. It's killing a fascist bigot who's evil. And it's actually utilitarian in the sense that it's making the world better and saving lives because he's a Nazi who will be responsible for killing millions. So they contribute to that. I'm not saying they should all be imprisoned, but they're contributing to that. And that's why this rhetoric, I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm a free speech absolutist and I hate this crap, but this rhetoric is getting dangerous. I've heard politicians say that line, but it is making things justifying killing people. And even I even don't even like it anymore when the right says it, like communists aren't people, the only good communists, the communists. Saying communists aren't people, again, it is implicitly saying it's okay to kill them because they're not people. They're like animals or bugs or
yeah, or the way Stephen Miller talks about Latinos. Got a lot of good stuff out of him. He really hates the hell out of us. The way that he like foams at the mouth when he talks about it. His speech at the Charlie Kirk funeral, which many experts have said he lifted language from Joseph Expletive Goebbels. I'm not joking. I got to tell you, that makes me feel very warm and friendly inside as a Latin person. Just to seeing the way that he speaks and the kind of power that he has, and him and Ton Homan getting on TV and saying, hell yeah, we can pull you out of your car if you look Mexican. As a Mexican person, hey, that's a country I want to be part of, right? So we're not, I was talking to some of the conservatives that you know, and they're like, why don't you move to Virginia? And I'm like, because I would hate it. And they go, but you said all these things, low taxes, low regulation. And I go, but let me start telling you all the liberal things I believe. And it turned quickly from Mark, you're one of us, to how the hell do you believe that? And I'm like, because I'm a minority. I'm here in California. I have gay friends. I have transgender friends. I have other people. I know black people. All the people here want to be protected and they want their freedom. Now, I understand how the conservatives see it because half my family's conservative and I always stayed in contact. But I also get the values here. It's viewed as freedom. It's ironic that the right is about freedom and the left is about freedom. They just don't use the word. Their ability to have transgender do whatever they want is freedom to be whoever you want. The ability to have gay people do, it's freedom to do whatever you want. Abortions for women, freedom to be you. So we're all talking about the same thing. We just have different views of it. I come down to, what side do you want to live with the heirs of? There is no perfect society. It doesn't exist. Do you want to live in a society where no abortions happen, but a little bit of racism happens? Or where there's no racism, but people can pretty much get abortions every other day? And I think you have to pick between the two, and we're never going to get a pick. And you're going to have to make an imperfect choice between two.
Yeah, and it's that, but that's only one, that's two examples. Like, abortion, racism. There are 100. There are 100 important issues.
Sure, but it still splits up in the left, right.
Exactly. So it's like that compounded, like exponentially, by a lot more. There's no way on the 100 issues that 350 million distinct people are going to live in a country that is even, forget perfect, just even acceptable, just amenable, livable. That's on even some of the issues, even half.
I remember Roe v. Wade hit, and people in California were upset, and so many liberals got on TV and go, some Republicans have to be upset with this, and some Republicans have to realize that they're taking away rights. And I started turning to some of my fellow liberals, and I go, you know what? I found those Republicans. With my work with Cal Exit, I know a bunch of them. And they'll work with you to back a return of Roe v. Wade. Here's the thing, though. You got to be okay with them saying, I want more gun regulation. I want less taxes. I want this. And all the other conservative stuff you hate, you have to be totally cool with. And then you can get them to join your Let's Return Roe v. Wade coalition. How many liberals do you think join me on that quest after talking loudly about how they'll work with conservatives to make it happen?
There's so many issues. There are so many issues, and it's not like you can pick what you want.
They just said it was an existential crisis, and then I go, great, existential crisis, that means this is the most important issue and all the other issues aren't. So you're willing to sideline those issues for this one because you said existential crisis. Here's the conservatives, zero takers. The moment I said these are church-going people who are going to be a little bit more religious and they're going to want more gun freedom, disgusting, I want nothing to do with them. Well, hold on, you said the most important issue was abortion, not guns. I got you the coalition. Hell no, I don't want to have anything to do with them. So what was all that talk about how you're going to make a coalition with people who realize this one issue is wrong? Liberals won't do it. They won't do it when it actually comes down.
They wouldn't have the numbers because, there are a lot of leftists who would say abortion is the number one issue, but still, to them, There are other issues that are very important or close to as important or equally important. The immigration, the LGBT stuff,
Sure.
the wars, the perceived racism, education, taxes,
Sure.
welfare. There are so many issues. They're never going to get all they want from the United States of America. Maybe if they have just California, they can get what they want or most of what they want. But as a union, there's no way one set of laws, which now that there's no more states' rights, pretty much, it's all one set of laws. There's no way it can make everyone happy or even anyone happy because mathematically speaking, if you do the math, the 350 million Americans, they're all different. Even if there are only 100 major issues, there might be more, but there are 100 issues, the war, the peace, the economics of it, the welfare, healthcare, 100 issues. There might be 0 people who would say they're mostly or even somewhat satisfied with the majority of issues, the way it is under one set of laws.
That's going to bring us to this. A lot of voters think that America's political visions cannot be overcome. And what grabs me is this poll's looking at 2020 to 2025. It's not looking at the last 70 years. It's looking at the last 5. And it says somewhere around October 2022, we passed a moment where now 2/3 of the country thinks we can't come together. By the way, that is Republicans, Democrats, and people who are not party aligned. That is Midwest, South, Northwest. That is old, young, middle age. That is black, white, Latino. So everybody, whatever category, is at the 2/3 of us think it can't be broken up. If you want to look at, and then it gets even higher, like African Americans, it's like 80%. So everybody thinks this. And then if you open up the byline, it's this poll.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
That was 64 to 33. People might realize, if your listeners are great at math, that's close to 2/3 versus a third. But
sorry.
Those who know politics know that 64 to 33 is such a big distinction. It's such a big difference that you pretty much never see it ever in politics. For instance, civics.com does like awesome randomized scientific polls that are like ongoing, dynamic throughout like 5, 6, 7 years. They keep going forever of like a representative portion, but like millions or hundreds of thousands of people. And they have found nothing, no issue, cannabis, war, economics, guns, nothing. That has 60% support on either side. They're all 50-50 or close, except for cannabis. Cannabis, I think, is the only one that's like 80-20 or 90-10.
So national divorce and cannabis, the only things Americans can agree on.
Yeah, but other than that, the other 30, 40, 50 big issues they measure are all like 50-50, 49-49. If you go to civics.com, I'll try to load it up here.
Yeah, here's one showing how it's changed. Used to be polarization has moved up ahead of democracy, Republicans. It's approaching the inflation level, and that's relatively recently. So that's the only point of that poll, is just to show we're at the point now where people are talking about Charlie Kirk and the wake, and it's only been about 10 days, and this is what they're saying. They can't address it. What grabs me is this one. So if you look at this poll, you can see there's some fluctuation. The people who were saying that we can't come together, at the far left of the poll, you'll see January 6th attack. So there was some divergence there. But then there's another yellow line, and that's showing the deaths related to COVID dropped by 90%. So you have January 6th, things get bad. But then COVID starts to get better. And according to this chart, it starts to bring people together.
Yeah, under a massive crisis like 9/11.
Under a massive crisis. Hey, we just don't want to die, right? And that's a great point. Doesn't mean the issues were solved. It just means maybe people cut down on their hate because they're scared about dying together, right? So, but here we go, and it's a straight line. Everything's okay. And then boom, Trump assassination attempt. Country comes together a little bit, not as much as with COVID, and then it goes right back to the trend line. See that? To the right of those yellow polygons, it goes right back to the trend line. And now we're at 2025, and it's just split to where it's going out. So you had periods where it got worse, then it got better, but it doesn't seem to come together any closer than this trend line of about, I don't know, 50% and 30%. The trend line is most of it. So this is just showing that it's gotten really bad in the last couple of years. You and I are talking about this now. COVID kind of brought people together, but that was a national emergency where people weren't really coming together because of a similar opinion. It was just the threat of living. And then with Trump's assassination, there was a little bit, but it kind of went right back to it. It seems like almost nothing is going to get people to come back together again. How do you feel? What's happens in the next couple months or year?
Well, I was going to ask if I could share my screen.
Share your. Oh, here.
It's just going to keep. No, I'm going to do it. I don't know if you need to give me permission. Jeez.
If you email me a graphic, I can show it.
Yeah. No, I got it. I can figure this out. I'm pretty smart. So, are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at every issue. Literally, civics.com is massive. It has tons of issues. They go over all the biggest issues. Sure. Let's literally look at all of them and see if there's any consensus. Is Trump handling his job as president well, good or bad?
No.
50-40, not that close. Most disapprove. So of the president who represents the United States, the more disapprove than approve, 54-42.
But they're not together, right? Just looking at this, that's not a unified opinion.
Exactly. How is the national economy right now? Totally divided in many ways. 31% say fairly good, 31% say fairly bad, 28% say very bad. So again, very much split. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's worse. There's a bigger number saying that it's worse, the economy of the United States. Are things getting better or worse? 54% say getting worse, only 33% say getting better. So people believe we're on the wrong trend even. So again, this is so bad in so many ways. Financial situation, staying the same or getting worse, only 19% say getting better. That's interesting. I would have thought it would be a little better than that even. Okay, more inflation, more stuff. Let's go to gun control. 53% say they want more gun control. Only 42% agree with me. So again, I'm in the minority here. It's split, but I'm in the smaller minority. 42 oppose gun control. 54% want stricter gun control laws. 42 oppose it, but how many want less gun control laws? It doesn't measure it, maybe 0. I'm in the tiny minority. Again, I can't live in the United States. I'm in the minority. Should we be using the Electoral College or popular vote? Wow. Again, conservatives should see this. Conservatives believe, everyone believes in, the Electoral College. Nope. 52% believe in a total national popular vote, and only 42% support the Electoral College system, which is the way our country has elected a president forever. So again, even the way to elect a president, we don't agree on. In fact, we are split, but the majority actually believe it's the wrong way to even vote. We cannot agree on the most fundamental things. Immigrants here illegally, should they get a path to citizenship? 49% say yes, give them a path to citizenship. 43% say deport them. Pretty split. Is Russia an ally or a foe?
Wow.
76% say a foe. 9% say an ally. Very interesting.
That's big divide.
Yeah. A lot of ramifications. Kind of a consensus, but that's actually even more complicated, and that's bad. BLM support. 42% oppose the movement. 41% support. That has flipped back and forth. Last I checked, the majority support it, or a plurality more support it. Again, bitterly divided on a very big fundamental issue. Now, here there's almost kind of some consensus. Let's see what this is. Do you believe the country is headed in the right direction? And actually, people agree we're going in the wrong direction. So the only things people actually agree on, this is 59 to 36. The biggest things, and this was a lot higher more recently. Now with Charlie Kirk, there's a bit more unity in this sense as far as the polls, and maybe U.S. bombing Iran. Maybe there's a bit more unity. Not even sure why. But historically, it's been closer to 65 or 70% saying, like over 70% sometimes, believe that we're in the wrong direction. So the country's heading in the wrong direction, and it is not going well. And we should, therefore, the conclusion after this is we should split up, because we've tried this experiment for 250 years and it's not worked, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse. So one of the things that I've written articles about this, and the Blueprint for Liberty is about this. I have a whole chapter about these polls. We disagree on almost every fundamental thing, and one of the few things we agree on is that the United States is not doing well, and we should probably split up.
That's what we agree on. That's possibly the only thing. And this poll kind of backs up where you and I are at. I think you and I are a microcosm of what this poll's showing. That was a great point. The only thing that people can agree on is we should not be with each other. And I also want to say that, don't look at it as a sad thing. Look at it as a thing that's going to keep people alive and prevent bad things. This is the good thing.
Divorce could be a good thing. Divorce could be a good thing. It can allow people to actually be happier and move on and live their lives.
Yeah, and it would prevent anything worse from happening. That's the big thing. I want to be clear on that. I want to prevent bad things from happening any further, and I think that it will if we don't do something to reset. So we're winding down. Do you have any other slides you wanted to show?
I mean, there are tons. There are so many on, I'll go back to the screen. There are so many on civics. And again, these are things that you can't just ignore. Do you want your environment protected? That's a big issue. Again, to at least you crazy leftists. For me, I want clean air and water, but like I'm not, I don't want the EPA controlling.
And we love it here.
Strictly. Yeah. So again, it affects everyone. The environment naturally affects everyone. The water, and there are some serious issues for sure, not to downplay it, about the water sources if they're contaminated. Flint's got issues, and there was the concerns about the pipelines in Dakota, about pipelines, oil and other stuff getting into the water. So there are legitimate concerns, but the EPA shouldn't exist. It's unconstitutional, and I don't want any environmental regulations on my business. If I run a business, I shouldn't have to spend millions on environmental impact studies and lawyers and OSHA compliance officers. But again, just looking at this, 56% of people say the government should have stricter laws and regulations protecting the environment. And keep in mind, the United States already has thousands or millions of pages of code of environmental regulations and laws. And 56% say they want even stricter, 34% say no, 9% are unsure. So that's another issue where they're split on, but also in the environment, gun control. The left believes that people are being killed by guns as an epidemic. You can't ignore it if you want stricter gun control, and that's a belief. I can try to convince you, and I wrote that book to try to convince you, but if leftists won't read the book or be convinced, at some point I got to give up and say, if you believe that guns are a huge issue, it's an epidemic, we can't agree to disagree on that one. We have to separate, and California can be its own country, and you guys can have borders that keep out guns, and that's fine, and you can live your way, and I can live my way, and that's fine. At some point, we have to agree to disagree. So there are so many of these polls raising taxes on wealthy, 60% support it, 29% oppose it. So if you're wealthy, you're in a small minority, less than a third. So you should, if you're wealthy and you don't want higher taxes on you, you can't agree with the rest of the union. Medicare for all, 52% support, 39% oppose. There are so many of these. I mean, it's everything, race relations, income inequality, foreign policy. If you look at all of this, impeachment, job guarantee, border wall with Mexico, I bet they're all split roughly 50-50. Guarantee a job. Should the United States guarantee a job to every American who wants one, like a government works program, socialism, communism? 48% say no, but 36% say yes. So they kind of want a socialism, communism kind of thing. Impeaching Donald Trump, 52-45. These things are split. And again, we all know this because Democrats and Republicans, popular vote and Congress and Senate, they're all always split every 2 years, pretty much 50-50, right? The Senate or House is 51% one direction, 49% the other, then they swing. The overall total popular vote for president is always almost the exact same, very, very close within a few votes as far as popular vote. So we're split 50-50, and we keep trying to overcome each other and dominate the other. And again, going back to the couple, and again, libertarians, I think, are naturally inclined to understand this divorce well, because we really place, not to shit on everyone else, but libertarians believe consent is like the absolute highest value. And that's why freedom of association and everything, the non-aggression principle. So imagine there's a husband and a wife, and they both want to fight and dominate each other, and they have polar opposite points of view on everything. They can keep fighting, and one might want to dominate the other and force them to live in chains under their set of values, saying, honey, I know what's best for you. You're dumb. I'm smart. I know what's best for you. You don't know what's good for you. And dominate them. But what kind of marriage is that? It doesn't sound very good or healthy at all. Like dominating them and forcing them to live under your will because you're threatening them with like violence, like under force. Libertarians are very much about consent and peace. And if a woman doesn't want to be with me, I'm not going to force her by violence, like tie her up and make her stay in my house. That's not marriage. That's like, slavery. That's violence. So like the right and left right now, both. And I've talked to conservatives on X and even people in real life the last few weeks. I'm like, do you not realize you got to separate? Like, we fundamentally disagree about like all the major issues. And they're like, oh, no, we got to beat them, crush the left, dominate them. And I'm like, no, one, you can't. It's 50-50. It's a Sisyphusian struggle. It's like, it's never going to end. But even if you could, do you want to live in that kind of union where one half is dominating the other half? Or just separate peacefully? And the left and right, they're both guilty of this. They just want to crush each other and dominate. And that's, even if successful, which it'll never be, even successful, that's not good. And you're not going to be happy. And even at the best case scenario, you'll build resentment like crazy until something blows up again. And then it'll be even worse.
That's where I'm at too. So
I guess bring me the leftists, and I'll try to bring you more conservatives. Like, bring me those who say that they don't agree with separation and why. Like, I would talk to them. I'll talk to anyone.
I defeat them on my own. We spend time just telling those people they're wrong and walking them through. But yeah, I'll see if I can find some. But we debate those people because we're like, you must not know how bad this is and where this is going. And I find out usually people aren't aware of how bad it is. A lot of times when I debate people, you're like, they go, well, that's extreme. And I go, well, what about this? What? What about this? What about this poll? What about that event? What about this action? What about that? And they have no idea. And then when I'm done, they're like, oh God, it's worse than I thought. And it comes back to, I think it's that woman who was saying, we're all passengers on the Titanic. They just can't see it. They're not paying attention. They don't want to hear it. And it's easier to just say, oh, come on, relax. It'll never happen. And then appear like you're smart. I just saw some other debate with the guy who goes, are we approaching national divorce? And he goes, no, it'll never happen. And he just kind of poo-pooed it. And it was really this is America. Come on. It wasn't really an argument on why it can't happen. It was more just, you're silly for suggesting this.
I mean, I agree. Ignorance is a huge issue. And I know that because a lot of reasons, but because people say, but it says one nation under God. And I'm like, dude, that's a Pledge of Allegiance. That's not the Constitution. It's not the Bible. That's like a pledge song kind of reciting phrase made by some leftist socialist only a few decades ago.
Yeah.
Like the founders never said one nation under God, indivisible.
Yeah.
I don't think even Francis Bellamy said it. I think it was added later now. So like people say, oh no, we're one nation under God, indivisible. Where does it say indivisible? Francis Bellamy wrote it or someone later wrote it decades ago. Who cares? But they're so ignorant of that. That means they clearly don't even know anything about the 10th Amendment. They clearly know nothing about the founding. I mean, man on the street interviews ask people, the majority might not even know that the Union, the states seceded from Britain in the 1770s. They might think it was 1800s, 1900s. I've heard 1400s. People, they really are very ignorant. I'm not to say that in a critical way. It's just they're not familiar with the situation. They probably know more about engineering because that's their job, but they don't know about the situation going on. They're very ignorant, and we have to educate them.
To the degree that we can. But then there's always the question of, do people want to listen? Do they want to learn? Do they want to hear it?
Force them with violence. Force them to listen. Scalia sounds.
Scalia. My guy. My man.
What did Scalia do?
Wasn't he one of them said recently, like, you can't make us do anything and we're forcing it wasn't Scalia. Who was it? It was another guy. And it's like, yeah, we have this revolution and we're going to force it on you. And he was a Supreme Court justice. I'm drawing a blank now, but I'll find it. Anyways, it's, so it is what it is. Okay, winding down, last minute comments.
I'm going to go on X and raise some more hell. Educate the masses about secession.
Okay.
It ain't much, but it's honest work.
Well, I really wanted you to come on. We both knew each other. We've both been following this for years, and I wanted to kind of review some of the stuff and show people who watch this video. There are two people literally on opposite sides of the country, literally opposite sides of politics, but who don't want people to get harmed. And both of us are saying, I see this. I see this getting worse. I see how things have ticked up recently. I see how we're getting closer to division. And that's really what I wanted to do this show, was so that I could show people, like, it's not just liberals. There's people on the other side of the spectrum who see what we're seeing and going, in the last couple, this Charlie Kirk thing has not brought the country together. It's only brought it apart. And it's pretty bad. And it's at new high levels that people who have been following this topic for years have never seen before. So we've hit a new high plateau of division that nobody's seen before, and multiple people from different perspectives are concurring. That was the entire point of the show. So wish you best on the baby.
Yeah. And thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
I'll call you later. We'll catch up, and I'm still playing phone tag with your dad. So
yeah, cool. Will this go out as a podcast as well as video everywhere?
No, it's just video, but I'll send you the thing tonight.
Yeah, well, if you don't put it up as a podcast somewhere, maybe I can.
You can put it up as a podcast for sure. Do whatever you want. This is yours as much as it is mine.
Maybe I'll put it up on Liberty Block and profit off of it.
You can absolutely do that. I've given you guys other stuff. You can totally do that. Hey, because we want conservatives to see that there are some liberals that can negotiate. We're not all, look, I share the values. I just recognize that you kick a dog and you kick a dog and you kick a dog and you kick a dog. One day that dog bites, right? Well, I had every good reason to kick that dog, and the dog needed to be kicked. Sure, dog's still going to bite back.
That's
the thing about a lot of people not recognizing. Yeah. They're just like, no, we just keep kicking that dog because it's the right thing to do, and the dog doesn't know what's good for it. Well, whether all that's true, at some point they're going to bite you, right? That's just the way that it is. And I see people recklessly kicking this dog like, oh, no, what's wrong? I'm like, you're just going to get bitten here. I can see we're just days away from you getting bitten and going, what did I do? How come this happened to poor me? I'm just a victim. And it's like, well, sort of, but also these conditions have been growing and you've been helping to feed them. You've been fertilizing this environment, whether you were aware of it or not. And so I view it as a thing where I need to convince liberals how to save ourselves against their own wishes. And that's the goal that we're doing here. And I think you have some of a similar goal with conservatives, is that, guys, it's not working. We can, this more attempt to try to bring it together means that we're just going to be beating each other down more. Like, hey, let's come in together means you do what my side forces you to do. That's not coming together.
And I think red state secession, that's like pretty much what he goes by. And it's a whole site and a whole movement now with Greater Idaho and Virginia, Illinois, Indiana. One of the things he highlights a lot, and he does like incredible math and everything and research on this. Like, but then he'll say, like, with Greater Idaho, it's a movement to move the border of Oregon inland by like half, so that the conservative counties in Oregon become part of Idaho. And he sells it to them in a brilliant way, saying, "Hey, conservatives in Eastern Oregon who are run by the leftist Eugene, Portland, or whatever area of radical leftists, wouldn't you love to live in a state that's 85% conservative?" Like, oh my gosh, then they perk up. Hey, leftists in Oregon, right now you have 60% of the vote. Wouldn't you love to live in a state that's like 95% Democrat? Like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. So I think maybe that's the way we should turn toward, like, that strategy of just ask Californians, forget everything else, make it very simple. Whenever you meet the Californian tomorrow, say, wouldn't you like to live in a country that's 90% leftist? And see what they say. Like, if they say yes, then there's no opening to talk to them.
They will, but Californians they want all of California. That's the way.
No, they can have it all.
They want
Once they secede, the 20, 30, 40% of conservatives in California, most of them will move out.
Maybe.
But I think it'll be a lot more, put it this way, California's a lot more leftist than the union as a whole. So
yeah. Splitting the states has some ability there, but even if you split the states and form a new conservative super liberal state, you're still back in the same situation you and I are meeting about today. You would still be in this union that's collapsing. So short of full secession,
I mean secession. I mean, sell secession to them. Cal exit as California will be your country, and your country will be like at least 60, 70% Democrat.
Yeah.
As opposed to 50%.
Well, yeah, as we sell it, it's all the things that Trump does can't happen anymore. So if we're worried he's going to pass this law or take that away or take away this right or do that, like half the stuff is stuff he says, and then the other half or 2/3 is he could possibly do this, so the courts may let him. All that threat wipes out. You don't have to worry about anything. That's what we're worried about, is losing our rights as we understand them. That's gone with independence. It can never be threatened again. You never have to face this fear again. And as we point out, you've had to face it 3 elections in a row. So you thought this was a fluke. You're now on your 3rd election wondering if all the rights you care about are going to be taken away, at least from the liberal perspective. Doesn't that seem dumb to keep yourself in that situation? It seems like, hey, if I go back to my old neighborhood, I could get shot. Well, let me go once, twice, 3 times. Hey, let's go a 4th time. You are asking for bad things.
And Trump is like actually a loose cannon. Even the right agrees with that. So who knows what? Like, you really don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, and just troops and cities and
yeah.
Stephen Miller. Okay, we'll end it there, bro. I'll send you a copy. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.
It was a pleasure. It was fun.
All right, bye.